All right. Shalom, everybody. Welcome. Come on in. Come on in. Excited and grateful and thankful to be in here one more again with you guys.
Thank you.
Come on in. Come on in. How's everybody doing? Shalom to everybody. We, excuse me, we're here. It's the Honorable Maya and myself here. And we are over servants of Christ, where we're always changing lives one mind at a time, but being the voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. And we give all praise and honor to the Most High. As always, I give honor to him for my wife, the Honorable Maya, who lives a life that's able to be honored. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And we're thankful and grateful. And Thursdays, we've been doing having our somebody come on with us. We started off with the Honorable Mind. We're starting off the year with the Honorable Mind for the month of January. And she'll also be joining us for Shabbat Shalom service, where we'll be coming in front of you guys together for the rest of this month. So we're excited and grateful for the opportunity. Come on in, everybody. Thanks for being with us. To the moderators, ministerial staff, SOC. If you agree with us, disagree with us, your first time, one time, or many, whatever the case might be, we're thankful and grateful to be here one more again. And please, once again, check out Bloom and Flourish. Anything you want to say about Bloom and Flourish products before we get started, or anything as far as tinctures or anything? Or
so the tincture of the month will be for January will be anxiety release. I'm gonna do a
do it with
this, rewind.
Rewind. Okay, cool. So the tincture of the month is anxiety relief. Amen. So we're thankful and grateful. Hello, everybody who's coming on. How you doing?
Shalom,
Sister Lynette, Sister Cynthia,
Mr. Tamara, Sister Kimberly, Elion, Kokoshima, Sister Cynthia, 66 Guns, Sister Betty, Big Roy.
Thanks for being part of the Glenn Ford. Appreciate you. Hello to Latoya. How you doing? Shalom to everybody. So today I wanted to, I guess it was on me today to bring the topic this time. And so, but something that we're both familiar with, and something some of you guys might be becoming more familiar with, especially if you've been doing the watch parties and stuff. But that's how you doing, Minister Shantae, Tree by Living Water, Sister Barbara. But we wanted to talk today, kind of focus on Rome and Israel a little bit. Why the Roman Catholic Church is such a big deal, and really we're going to be, from doing that, wanting to kind of share some things about Israel as far as who we are. Even something called, I don't know how many are familiar with the term Sephardic Jews, but basically Israelites that are known through Portugal, who are known in or were known in Spain, who were known in Morocco, or what we now call Morocco, who were known in what we now call Ghana, or what at the time might have been called Negro land. The fact that people have known who we are, and you have to start asking yourself who covered it up. And we oftentimes go to so many people, but sometimes we forget about the Roman Catholic Church. And if we are told all the time that we are wrong about who we are, which we oftentimes are, and if everybody's always ready to tell us why we don't know what we're talking about, question is there any proof or evidence about what we're talking about that makes it very clear? And before I even get into showing you guys some of the stuff and we get into deeper discussion, is there anything like for you, is it like, would you like to discuss maybe like why do you think that it's so important that we get back to knowing who we are, and even admitting who might have taken who we are away from us in a certain extent? You know what I'm saying?
Well, understanding who you are is the only way to know your true purpose, your true everything, to lay claim to what is yours. If you're a queen or a king, if you don't know that you're a queen or a king, then you won't ask for certain things, and you may be treated outside of your role. And it's great, in any time in life, it's good to know your role. And if you don't know who you are, how can you know your role?
Yeah, true. And you said, what's more important, knowing who you are or the kingdom of Elohim. Well, if you know about the kingdom of Elohim and the kingdom's in you, then you should definitely know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no, you know, beef or deception or anything like that regarding that for sure. So
The king made you who you were.
exactly, if you know the King of Kings and you know how the kingdom of heaven works and you know how the kingdom of heaven operates, and this is the prayer, right? Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, and thy will be done on earth the same way it is in heaven, right?
And
So,
I like the way you always talk about um, use and abuse,
mm,
misuse. And if you don't know what something is used for, then sure, you could hack it and you could use it for something that it wasn't intended for. But things are always typically better used the way they were intended to be used,
mm,
even if you don't know that they were supposed to be used that way. I like watching those videos. Like on TikTok, where it's like, I was today years old when I found out you were supposed to do this with the travel pillow, or you're not knowing how to use something properly because you don't know how it was intended to be used. You miss out on the full benefit of it.
amen, amen. And like Minister Tamara said, we know better who we're supposed to be when we know the will, you know, Yahweh's will for our life. And I think Sister Rhonda came on. Hello, Sister Rhonda, and oh, okay. Annette, you said, as above, so below. I'm out. I was just talking with somebody today that kept saying that over and over again, as above, so below. I'm
I
out.
thought
So,
there was like a what do you call it? Um, what do you, oh dear, something like hidden. The gosh, what is that term that has to do with doing something kind of undercover? You know what I'm talking about? That's like mysticism. Like it's never mind. I'll think of it.
mm.
Occult. I
Oh,
thought that so as above, so below. I
I
thought
mean,
there was
they
like
use similar terminology
I thought
sometimes,
that was
yeah.
like Satanism.
So within that, I guess there are probably some people. I mean, there's people that use, you know, take a tov and turn it upside down.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I guess it could be something that somebody's using. But or like, you know, I could see it being similar to something. What is that? Doest thou wilt or something? What is that?
Oh yeah, basically.
Alexander Crowley or whatever
Yeah,
his name is.
basically do whatever you want.
Yeah, so I could see something like that possibly. But yeah, you know, you know, as what's done in the kingdom should be done on earth. You know, so I could see them trying to reverse something like that. Sure, but so yeah, so oh, okay, hermeticism. Okay, so when we do these different things, okay, you practice the occult. Oh well, okay, well, hopefully you're willing to be open minded. But when you're talking about these different things, and we're talking about Rome as far as Israel and some of this stuff, where is the evidence, right? Where is the proof? Where is the documentation? And why should we know who we are, right? So here's just a couple things that we would like to be able to share with you guys tonight, um, and we would like to be able to go ahead and discuss. So a few things that I found, I just want to kind of I'll read it to you guys on YouTube. Those on TikTok, prayerfully this works out correctly. For some reason, I'm having issues already. But I had a couple things just kind of wanted to show you because if we're going to talk about this, if did Rome, did the Roman Catholic Church, do we find evidence that people knew who we were, not just who Yeshua was, but who we were and really who we are? Is there any evidence to it, right? Like, is there any evidence as far as King James used to be a certain color, things like that, right? But that's an easy one, and that's people. Even though you see the picture, people will try their best to tell you why you're wrong about that, etc. So, how about even when you see pictures and we don't even think about the fact of, you know, what's going on, this group of people who came and we talk about even the like the Inquisition, the Spanish Inquisition, the Portuguese Inquisition, which really is the Roman Catholic Inquisition, and we don't really discuss how terrible some of these things are. And if we do, we have in our mind just that, if I could use colonial or social construct, it was white on white crime.
Yeah.
You know, we have in our mind that it was white people killed white people, and that's about it.
Well, I had to learn it ad nauseum because I studied French. So they made it seem like it was just Protestants versus Catholics. It was extremely bloody and disgusting. They have movies on so many movies about it, and we had to watch them. We had to read about it. Nowhere did it ever mention any Black or Israelite people
Mm,
involved in that.
right. So it's surprising to us even though it shouldn't be, but it becomes surprising to us because we learn, well, wait a minute, there's all this stuff, there's all this proof, all this evidence of what these people look like, and the people who were literally were put in chains, enslaved, taken to other places, St. Thomas, the Americas, Brazil, West Africa, which becomes Negro land, and now that they're the point of no return on the slave coast, all these different things, right? A place that my wife and I, even have gone and looked at or whatever. And, these are places that are the nightmares, legends. And it's almost like you don't want to believe it till you're standing there in your ancestors' footprints, right? And so if these things are correct, well, is there anything we can look at? Well, give you a little bit of stuff. So this is something called the Jews. Um, the Jews, a study of race and environment. This was written in the 1800s by Maurice Fishburne. And he's talking about stuff that came hundreds of years before him. Right. So in the 1800s, by the way. So they told us, and how you doing, Sister Sharice? So they told us.
Brother Jermaine.
And how you doing, Brother Jermaine? And thank you for the love and for the gifts and all those great things. We appreciate it on all the platforms. How you doing? Uno. So they told us that nobody really knows what an Israelite looks like. You've heard that before. Or they told us, hey, the people of Israel are the people that are there now, even though we have, and I've even told you guys, you can scroll through our stuff on TikTok to look at the 1920s to see what the people of Israel look like in the 1920s. Means that if they look different in 1940s, we got to ask ourselves something as far as where they came from. But this is somebody who writes a book in the 1800s, and he talks about Sephardic Jews. And the term Jew, we wouldn't have been called Jew originally. We would have been Avda or Israel or Yashda, etc. But they call these people Sephardic Jews. Now we know about Ashkenazi, and we argue about that. And we know about Khazarian, and Khazarian is literally an empire, and the people didn't look like the people that look there, right? They're not from the same place. However, we don't talk about Sephardic. You said, so Hebrew is the language, right? Hebrew is the people. The people speak a language. So if you speak, if you speak Portuguese, right, then that comes from a people. So yeah, so there's a language that's there, but they speak a language from the people that they come from, a Shemitic language, even if you will, right? And in this book, when you read it, you will discover that it says that the people were swarthy. What does swarthy mean? Swarthy means that they are black. So it says they are swarthy. It says that they have very curly in here. Or what? Or
the word Schwartz.
Oh yeah,
German
even
means black.
We don't even think about that. Schwartz. What Schwartz means? It actually means black. It talks about the fact that these people, there's no difference between them and North Africans in this book as well. Now, this is all in something we could read. Why are we not reading this? Why are we not listening to this? Why are we told that because somebody made H2N or reclaiming the throne or all this stuff that we're reverse racist to talk about something that somebody who's not even black writes about before people made black and white a thing? But they mention what they look like because, hey, if I see somebody, I say, hey, he's light skinned, he's got, straight hair, it's blonde, it's this and that. We're giving a description of the people. So to give a description of the people, right, is to say, so once again, it's called The Jews, a study of race and environment, written by Maurice Fishburne, and he tells you what they look like. So why would a whole group of people, or even a whole religiosity, if you will, the Roman Catholic Church, or even a lot of people today in Protestantism, why would they tell you that it's not truth? Why would they tell you that it's not real? Right? Right? Why would we tell them? Why would we allow people to tell us that this stuff is not real? Why would we allow somebody to say, hey, we're mentioning something that is historical documentation, and so we're just trying to say what somebody else. Remember the term burden of proof. The burden of proof is not on us; it's on those that came before us. So if somebody that came before us who lived in the time, even really, they didn't live in the time. They were writing about what people, a couple centuries before, who lived in the time we're saying. So we actually have multiple people from multiple time periods confessing to the same thing just in one book. You know, so the knowledge is deep, right? So that's one. Another one, because people say we're just making this stuff up. So this is a really, really long title. But and the way that TikTok is set up is difficult for me to see it, but I'm gonna do my best. It's called Memoirs of the Secret Services of John McKee, Esquire, or John Mackey, excuse me, Esquire, during the reigns of King William, Queen Anne, and King George I, published from his original manuscript as attested by his son, Spring Mackey, Esquire. All right. by John Mackey. So when we read this, if you go and read this book, right? When you go read this book, you will discover that in this book, this guy says that he ran into somebody who was swarthy. That means he's black. He was somebody who had a lot of influence and money. So we weren't just poor people out here. And he also says that he was somebody who was tall, slim, and black, where as if there was no difference between him as a Jew or an African.
Shalom, Sister Shima.
Hey, how you doing? Right. So think about that. There's no difference. This is what it says now. That there's zero difference in between him as a Jew or an African.
Well, in Europe, they know our history. And I didn't understand, like, when I went to Europe, why I was kind of like a prize pony.
Mm-hmm.
Like, nobody would tell me why. They just wanted to study me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, actually, my host father had his children, like, study my behaviors. Like, they'd be like, he would say, pay attention. Look at the way she sits and eats, and look at the way you sit and eat. Pay attention. Like look at this. And he had actually studied in America in the 60s himself, in I think in Detroit, as a white dude amongst black people. Like, he hung out with black people only there. I had, two different families, and both of the fathers were pastors, and both of them hung out with black people in America before coming back to Switzerland and getting married and starting a family. And they were both kind of like curious. They were both curious about my history, about what I thought, all these different things. They never told me who they thought I was or who they knew I was.
Well, you tell this. I mean, if you want to tell the story again, you told them live before about how the guy asked you where you were from.
So
I know that's not your host father, but somebody.
So my host father's brother, my host father's nephew, we were sitting outside and we were eating and we were just talking. And of course, they were just curious about America and curious about my history and curious about who my people were and all this kind of stuff. And so his name is Fabian. He asked me, where is your family from? And I said, America. He goes, no. Where is your family from? And I said,
listen to this.
America. I don't know. And he goes, you don't know? I said, no, I don't know. And I kind of chuckled and I started laughing, and I realized he was crying. And I was like, it's okay. You don't have to cry. I'm okay. We have a sad history, but you don't have to cry about it. I was like, there was slavery, there was this, there was that. He was like, you don't know who your family is. He was like, that doesn't strike you as like really sad. And I was like, no, I'm okay.
Yeah. And we've gotten so used to it that we don't even look at stuff like that, to where people say all the time, well, I need the DNA test, I need this. It's like, you've got written documentation about people from your family, by the way, because we could talk about Oluwada Ekweanu, we could talk about Flavors Josephus, we could talk about so many other, we could talk about the man that started the whole movement as far as trying to get reparations for us because we were Israelites in the early 1900s or the late 1800s, not sure when it was exactly, but these things are out there. And how you doing, Sister Austria? Like, these are things that are right there in front of us, right? So this is another thing that we could even read.
Another thing that I find interesting about the Europeans, they know who we are, but it's almost like they're forbidden to tell us who we are. They know our history, and I got like nuggets, like little pieces on the trail where people would throw things out there, and then they would kind of back off what they were saying because I wasn't interested at all. I kind of was like, so what? Like, I had a Portuguese boy walk up to me, and he was like a foreigner in Switzerland. I was in Switzerland, so he was a foreigner in Switzerland. So he had a lower status in Switzerland as being a foreigner. In European countries, being a foreigner automatically, like, not American. American foreigners are accepted because they figure you're going home, you don't want to stay there. But he knew his place, but he was very curious, and he was like, "Do you know who you are?" He asked me too. Like, I was always wondering why they keep asking me, "Do you know who you are? Do you know this?" And so he showed me some Portuguese money, and he said, "You see this? This is a goddess coming out of the water. She's black." And I was like, "That's nice." I wasn't interested at all, and I thought he was just trying to hit on me anyway. So I was like, whatever. And people just kept trying to tell me, "Do you know who you are? Do you know your history?" He told me about the Moors and how the Moors ruled Spain for over 800 years, and that I was a Moor and all these things. He was trying to tell me who I was, because I obviously didn't know. I was too
Yeah, from the
ignorant.
700s till 1491.
I was too ignorant to know.
And
He was
before,
like, "Do you know who you are?"
yeah, and even before that, the Carthaginians for 2,000 years, really.
Yeah.
So as you're dealing with thousands of years, Spain was not a country. Spain was just a collection of people who had been basically beat up by different people for years, including Rome, Greece, and others, and Moors were over them. Carthaginians were over them. Matter of fact, the capital of Carthage got moved from Carthage to Spain when they were fighting against the Romans during the what we call uh,
The Crusade?
no,
The
not the
Inquisition?
Crusades. No, it's a Rome before Christ. It's right before Rome became a world power. Greece still in power. Or I can't remember the name of it, but anyways, it'll come to me. But if we need it, but Hannibal Barca and all that were in it or whatever. And wait a minute, I should know it because that's the Punic Wars, the Punic Wars, because because they knew we were Punician or Phoenicians, which means that we're attached to Canaan, which means we're attached to Israel, which means it's Aleph Bet, all that, right? So this is all stuff that is who you are. So we got to start asking ourselves once again, if we know this stuff is there and we know this stuff presentable, why do we allow, or why is it allowed? Period. That they're trying to tell you that we're not who even other people are saying we are, right? Even this next one, right? This next one, this next book is talks about. It's called Travels in Poland, the United Provinces, England, Scotland, and Ireland. Now this is from 1634 and 1635 by William Brereton, I believe. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing his last name, but by William, we call him William B. I don't know, that's disrespectful, but but he wrote this book, and in this book, it talks about how, once again, it says that there were these people who were Sephardic Jews that were known. We're not talking about in. I'm not even talking about in Spain, right? We're not talking about in Portugal now. We're talking about in England, Scotland, and Ireland. It talks about specifically how these people are swarthy, have colored hair, and it even says that they look like the people of West Africa. Now, what do the people of West Africa look like? You see, as far as even color, as far as how they carry themselves. Are we talking about even Igbo people who we know came over here, and Ashanti people and Shui people and all these people that come over, right? Negroes from Negro land, the same thing they called you over there, they called you the same thing over here, right? Negro didn't just mean black. Negro was actually originally something. Now, originally, historically speaking, it's actually one of the most ancient terms West Africans use for themselves. But they started calling Jews Negroes before they started calling all black people Negroes. That's actually a fact. Like that's actually something undeniable. So we heard it, and then eventually it became something that meant African slaves, and then it also eventually meant um, native. So if you were indigenous, not just native, but indigenous to the Americas. So if you were indigenous to the Americas, if you were African, if you were a Jew or an Israelite, you all fell into Negro. So even in England, in Scotland, and in Ireland, they all know who you are. And at this time, if you would call somebody a Negro around this time, when this book is written, they wouldn't have looked for just any African or any Native American. They would have been looking for a specific people who, guess what? In this book, it'll tell you they got baptisms, they kept the law, they believed in circumcision, they named their children on the 8th day. Now, these are Israelite customs. So once again, we have to ask ourselves.
We know we're different. We know we're different. We know that they're like, we, like, as a people, as American blacks, know that we're different from anybody else. Like people who are in the Americas and black, and you're semi-indigenous or you're from here, you know you're different from other black people. Like, and sometimes you don't even realize how like you know that you're all black, and other black people will treat you differently. Even like, what do you call it, Habesha or Ethiopian people will treat you differently. um you know West Africans who are not of your same lineage treat you differently. You're called, what do they call us, akatas, or what we are called.
Yeah,
It's kind of like a swear word.
Nigerians use that. I don't know if it's Igbo specifically. I don't think it's even Igbo, but Nigerians. It's something. Matter of fact, the Nigerian guy who was going out with the colonial construct, the Nigerian guy that was going up with the white girl.
Oh yeah.
That's how I
I
found
shouldn't
out
laugh,
about that
but
name.
it's bad.
But it was Nigerian
It's
guy who
bad.
used to come on all these videos and tell people like black women were bad and he needed to be with white women and black Americans were terrible. And then the white woman who he's going out with killed him, tried to call the police and say, basically he just died. But then or she was defending herself, but from the angle of the knife and where it took place in the blood, it was clear that he'd been killed. But that's how I actually found out for the first time about the word. I didn't know the word existed before then, but that's apparently what, and a lot of us, even though we should still pray for him and his family and stuff, but a lot of people straight up were just like, oh, well, that he got what he deserved. And so I started looking into it and come to find out that word, that's what they use for a lot of people that they don't consider to be themselves, even though
they probably are.
Some of us are still the
Hebrew,
same. But a lot of people, once again, are unaware of who they are.
Yeah, like you said, a lot of Africans, especially West Africans, are Hebrews. There are different tribes like the Igbo, the Wolof, different ones that are clearly Hebrew if they trace their lineage. But since we've been separated so long, a lot of times we consider ourselves different. I had an African guy tell me, like, why do Africans think that they're so much better than African Americans whenever we went through slavery, we've been oppressed, we speak somebody else's language. How is it that we think that we're any better or any different than other black people?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, well, I'm glad you feel like that, because a lot of African people from the continent will look down on Black American people. And I didn't understand why there was even a distinction if we're all just Black people, all the same people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, of course, there's a lot of intermarriage, intermixing to an extent between us. And there are a lot of Hebrews in Africa, but there is a distinction between Hamites and Shemites.
Mm-hmm. And we forget a lot of them married into each other even before the latest types of scattering. And a lot of people don't even think about the scattering as being something there, but a lot of people only think about like when we're scattered or whatever. We only think about it as Rome when it happened in the Bible, or maybe we think about it like with Assyria when the northern tribes left and they were looking for the land of Asheroth, or maybe sometimes we think about it with Christopher Columbus when he brought a Hebrew interpreter. But we forget a big chunk of it is the start of the slave trade being based off of skin color, and it's because they were looking for specific tribes. They were not looking for every tribe. So even when you hear, well, these tribes, people don't want to go there because they don't want to hear the religiosity or what they think is religiosity, but people don't want to go there because they'll say it. They're like, oh yeah, well, if you really want to go there, hey, why is it that black people or African people so African people? And it's like, first of all, they didn't look at each other as being one. That was part of the problem. Number two, they didn't come looking for all African people. They didn't just say, hey, if you're black, you can be a slave at first. Eventually, that starts happening, especially when they start enslaving people or colonizing people, basically enslaving you in your own land. But they were looking for specific tribes. And when you look at the specific tribes, they were looking for people who had Avda, or what today we might call Jewish ancestry. They had started it off in certain places with people who were known to be Avda, or what we now call Jewish in certain countries that were in Europe. And after that, now when they started, remember, a lot of them left, a lot of them ran. Like, so people that were in Spain that were slaves, right? When everything started happening over there, when the Jews started getting persecuted over there, they ran over to Portugal. And then in Portugal, they started doing the same Roman Catholic stuff, Inquisition over there. And then once they were getting persecuted, taken in slavery and stuff, a lot of them scattered again and came to North Africa and West Africa. Matter of fact, that kind of just happened recently, where a lot of people in Morocco who were trying to come back, trying to go into Spain, the Spanish beat them down and got killed a bunch of people earlier in 2022. Nobody said anything about it, of course, but same kind of thing, same area, same mindset, same disposition towards our people. So you have those things, but I want to give one more. I don't know if this is the one or not.
Can you take a question for that, or you want to just go into that? No, just an interesting question. How would you advise a white person to identify themselves when speaking about Yashrael from Sister Betty?
Oh, how would I like some? I mean, I think it's about, well, Sister Betty, you got a special place with us anyways, but, I don't really do the white thing per se, but also, I get what you mean. So I mean, as far as biblically is concerned, which is ultimately the guide, it's not about what I feel or what I think. Biblically concerned, like it's about being grafted in. So if you're going to be grafted in, um, you know, it's about following the rules, regulations, and customs and traditions. Um, and if you're somebody who doesn't agree because you believe what we believe, but if you're somebody, I guess, who doesn't believe what we believe, I would just hope people would respect it. That's the big thing that's been happening. Is somebody says that I'm an Israelite, and somebody's quick to say, no, you're not, and you're this, and how dare you try to mismanage, and how you try to misappropriate, or like Kevin Hart came out recently and said, you know, Kemetic people were actually, or people from Egypt originally were black, and Egyptians that are over there that aren't the same people started saying, "Oh, we hate him and cancel him and stuff like that." And a lot of people started to agree, and it's like, no, like take time out to at least listen to somebody and learn and respect and honor, who they are. Just like if I learn, like I speak very highly of a lot of people in here who are Irish. I learned the culture, and you learn what a lot of them. Not, there's exceptions to every rule, just like all skin folk and kin folk. There's exceptions to every rule, but a lot of Irish people. Even in, I mean, I'll say our family because I'm married into, but even in our family, like there's Irish heritage that we have of people who married in and even were willing to die so that their children would live, in a very messed up society. I was gonna say at that time, but still today, But so we shouldn't love each other by each other's heart. But yeah, if somebody tells you they're Israel, we should probably listen to them to see, and even listen to those that came before us. If that, I don't know if that was the exact question because I didn't even see it.
Yeah, it said, yeah, that's what it said. How would you advise a white?
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for that. But let's see. Yeah, he didn't lie. He didn't. So lastly, in the same book that I was talking about, just in case you weren't aware of it, I took a screenshot of somebody else actually going through this. But lastly, I don't know if I can read this whole thing, but you can kind of get the gist of it. They're men. They're just talking about who? They're talking about who they call Jews. They're men, most black, full of hair, right? And let's be honest about our men when they're out of back and insatiably given to, I think it says, the appetite of women, their wives, restrained and made prisoners. So they took their wives and made them prisoners. And the Jews were distinguished, and those women that were Jews distinguished from all other women. And then it talks about Jews, and I can't really read the rest of it. Jews were done, things were done to them by white, something to their back. So I guess some of the whipping, I can't read the full thing, but enough for you to be able to get the gist of what they say Jews look like. And that's actually from the book that we had just discussed. So we have a lot of different things that are here. And once again, why are these things being hidden? Matter of fact, now I'll be honest with you with this next one. This isn't necessarily the best thing to use as a case, but this is somebody, now they misquoted this. A lot of people were saying this is this Voltaire? Is it, or is it French?
Voltaire.
Voltaire. Okay, thank you. My wife's
very famous French author.
Okay, I thought, yeah, I know his. I just didn't know how to pronounce the name. So yeah, so people used to think this was his quote, but he didn't actually say it. It actually is written by so this is a quote, but it's not by him. If you see above, I was honest about it. It's actually written by somebody who's a white supremacist. So, but just like Adolf Hitler, he told you some truth. He said that the Jews were black. Adolf Hitler gave you some truth. He said that that was his excuse for murdering a bunch of modern Jews. That's still wrong. We're gonna make that distinction, right? I'm not saying they deserve blah blah. I'm just saying he told the truth about some things. Adolf Hitler said that you keep telling a lie big enough, loud enough, you keep saying it, and eventually people will believe it as if it's true, right? So there's certain things that are out there. Just because people don't agree with you, you still can learn truths, right? But this is something that really struck me when I saw it. I did some research because I was like, I don't think I remember him being attributed to this. And then come to find out, apparently people started saying he said this, so the guy must have mentioned his name and people thought that he said it. But here's the quote. It says, to learn who rules over you. And he was talking about Jews. So this is why, I'll be honest with you. This is a person that doesn't like Jews. So I don't want to sit up here and act like I'm in the same boat, but I just want to give you what he said in general. To learn who rules over you, simply find out who you are not allowed to criticize. Right. So this is not me directing this at them. I am being honest about where the quote came from. I looked it up just to make sure, because I felt something was wrong with it. Praise Yah that I did, so that we didn't make the same mistake others have and say, that attributed to the wrong person who didn't say it. But there's some truth to that. To learn who rules over you,
Yeah.
simply find out who you're not allowed to talk about.
It goes back to your you cannot serve who you rule and you cannot rule who you serve type of thing. When
Mm-hmm.
you say, you know, you know your place if you know that you're not allowed to say anything bad
Mm-hmm.
about them because what happened, there are consequences.
Mm-hmm.
If you know if you're equal, there's no real consequences. Like
Yeah. And they talk bad about Bloods and Crips and stuff. Like, you go to LA and they'll press you. Where you from, cuz? Like, like, I dare you. Say it. Something like that. But that's what they do all the time. Say you're Israel. I dare you. Say it.
yeah,
We'll tear everything up. Say that black people are oppressed. I dare you. Say it. Thank you for the love. Appreciate it. Say you black women need to be recognized more as who they are, and we should make sure that we look them. Say it. I dare you. Right?
mm-hmm.
Like we are in a position to where that's the norm,
Yeah.
and
Like Dave
so
Chappelle made a joke about it on SNL
mhm.
where he said when there's a group of um
Black, yeah,
black, it's a gang.
and Mexicans, yeah.
Mexicans, it's a gang. Um,
If it's
if it's
Italians,
Italians or Irish, they're mafia. But if it's a group of Jewish people, it's just a coincidence, and and never speak of it.
yeah, and we should never speak of it, right? So just look around, and that's just in general in life. To learn who rules over you. That's why Nicolaitan doctrine, right? Nicolaitan doctrine, lay people, and Nikos, people who conquer lay people who are in the pews. So if you want to know who rules over you, like look in the church where you can't ask questions. If you want to know who rules over you, be in a family where you're not allowed to question, like, hey, why is so and so get to do that, or why don't we discuss that? This is the issue going on. If you want to be in a place where we see that somebody's abusive to their spouse, see who rules over you if you can't say something about it.
I like what Barry Young said. They had to fill the void of Hebrew Israelites once they robbed us our heritage, just in case. Exactly. Like I never really got exactly why they had us black or Israelite people change our names when we were enslaved. And it's like, oh, because a name puts you with the heritage. Your hair puts you with your heritage.
Mm-hmm.
Like they had the women, cover their hair and get rid of their hairstyles. Anything that was recognizable as culture
Yeah, they had to
was
keep it. They
robbed.
had to keep it short too.
No reading, no writing, um, no gathering. Everything that would identify you as a certain person within a group, they had to destroy that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So great points. So these are things, once again, one more, and then that's all I have. Here's another one: Source of the Pentateuch, and this is by Samuel C. Bartlett. And if you don't know who he is, Samuel C. Bartlett is actually a great source to go to as far as theology. Recognized, where I'm trying to remember the exact university. Might even say it down here somewhere. I'm not sure if it will. No, it doesn't say. Well, look. A matter of fact, let me look him up real well. Actually, well, go look him up for yourself. I can't remember the name of the university, but this is not a run-of-the-mill person. This was basically like the dean of a university, in teaching theology, putting together many speeches, writing books. And when he puts this together, he says, he looks back through history and says, hey, that the people who are Sephardic Jews, the people called that, they mimic, as far as looks, they look like the people of West Africa, of Ethiopia, and he said they look like the people that are next to the Sea of Reeds and the Red Sea, meaning that the people who are supposed to be in Israel at that time that he wrote it in the book, they look like the people who were traded as slaves from the same places we've been talking about tonight. So we have evidence, we have piece after piece after piece after piece that says Israelites were swarthy. They had woolly hair. They were considered to be black. They were considered to be just as black as Africans or just as black as Jews. Over and over again, just in these books, right? And once again, if you're on YouTube, it's called Source of History in the Pentateuch, or Pentateuch, depending on how you pronounce it, by Samuel C. Bartlett, Bartlett. So if we have all that, and we can see that there's obviously something that goes on, if we know that there was an Inquisition. And by the way, in the Inquisition, they talk about what the people look like.
I have a question.
Okay.
Were all of Abraham's son considered Hebrew, or
Yeah.
just the okay? So yeah, so even the ones who weren't through Israel are Hebrew.
Well, I mean, anybody that comes out of Hebrew is Hebrew. So Hebrew once again comes first, and you have Peleg. Peleg goes down to Abraham, and so anything born out of Abraham is Hebrew. But then Isaac, one of his 6, 7 sons, Isaac is Isaac leads to Jacob. Jacob becomes Israel. So anybody out of Jacob is Israel.
Okay.
So not all Israelites are Hebrew, but not all Hebrews are Israelite type thing. Like what they used to do in school. All of blah blah is this. It's like all of blah blah is this. Same thing. It's like all of Israelites are Hebrew, but not all Hebrews are Israelites. So that's talking about covenant. So, but when they're talking about Jews, they're talking about specifically Israelites. When you hear that term, when they started using that letter J and started to say Judea, or if they're using the letter J to say Judah, they're basically saying Jews, and they're saying Israel or us specifically. So when
Ishmael is not. Ishmael is a Hebrew, but he's not.
Ishmael is Hebrew, right? Ishmael is our brother in a sense, right? But he's not
Israelite.
He's not an Israelite, but he's still our brother. So he's our brother. He's not an Israelite. But just it doesn't matter where we come from. At the end of the day, like if you still, once again, to go back to Sister Betty's question, if you are willing to follow those, the will, the way, the law, the customs, the traditions, etc., then you'll be able to, you will be accepted in. King Solomon even prayed that prayer when the temple was built, and he said, if anybody is, basically becomes a follower of the way and keeps those same things, he asks for protection for them, even if they are a stranger, which is an immigrant, even if they're not an Israelite, we still pray. Our prayers are that anybody who comes into the knowledge of Yah, they be grafted in. Romans chapter 11 says they can be grafted in.
There's a question from Brooklyn Butterfly. Let's say, Shalom, Brother Kofi and Sister Maya. Have you seen the video of Hitler and his army doing salat? Salat?
I don't know exactly what that is. I've seen a lot of. I probably watched and read too much about Hitler, so I might have seen it, but I don't know off the top of my head what it means. If you could explain what it means a little more.
Someone asked, "The truth is life." Said, "Does Hebrew mean dark hue?"
Well, before it was called Hebrew, it was called Avda. Avda was the people or the language and the names. Man, some people call it Ebre because they speak different language. Eber, Ebre. But basically, Hebrew. I mean, it's kind of. I've heard people say it's kind of debated. Nobody really kind of knows exactly where it came from because it came from a different language. Like we never called ourselves Hebrew till other people told us we were Hebrew. We were always Avda. We were always Yashrael or Israel. We were never Hebrew until modern times. If you see that book, even if somebody gives you like an ancient book and it says Hebrew, then you know somebody had to write that in. Like in the Bible, there was no such thing as God. We had Elohim, but now we say God because somebody wrote it in. No such thing as Old Testament. So we never really were Hebrew. Somebody had to tell us, like even Igbo people, if you work in reverse, we now call them Igbo because they started calling themselves Igbo because other people who believed that they were Hebrews called them Hebrew, but they didn't know how to say that. They didn't really get that. So they just started calling themselves Hebo. And then before that, they called themselves Ivri, which goes back to, or sorry, Ivrit, which goes back to Ivri, which actually is, connected from the people who scattered there, who call themselves Avda. So a lot of Igbo people will recognize, even if they don't carry custom traditions and still follow the faith, they'll actually call themselves, they'll call, even if they've converted to being a Muslim, they'll still admit to you, yeah, before we were Muslim, we actually did, carry out the traditions and stuff of Israel. So, so even in that, but once again, there's a lot of connection there, and there's a lot of stuff like that where people will recognize, even if they don't carry the tradition or the culture of Israel, they will still say, yeah, we have Israelite blood, or this Hebrew blood that's in us. And then you get, what is it, E1B1A?
Yeah.
You get into that. That's something that's really strong. So pretty much, if you got that blood type, it's almost impossible to say you're anything but. So we have that in West Africa, we have that in East Africa, we have that in North Africa, etc.
I would advise against getting DNA tests.
Well, yeah,
because they own the DNA.
Yeah, they're trying to take your DNA and do wild stuff with it. Yeah. So
for perpetuity, why would you need it forever?
Perpetuity throughout the universe.
Yeah, why would you need to own someone's DNA forever throughout the universe? Like, what are the plans for your DNA? Why is your DNA so special, and why do they want it? Like, I get weird when they start calling for black blood donors. I'm like, oh no, not today. Sorry.
Or
Not
O
sure.
positive.
Yeah.
We're both O positive. So
Yeah.
they used to love us. They used to want us to come to the blood bank all the time.
Yeah, I'm good. Like I didn't realize how sinister some of the stuff is. And young Master Solomon and I found out that there's such thing as a poop bank, where they're like housing people's poop for poop transplants.
I never even. Oh no, you did tell me that. That's
Yes, for
right.
poop
You did tell me
transplants.
that. Wow.
So just like there are banks, there are poop banks, and who knows whatever other kind of banks they have where they're gathering stuff. So
I mean, every part of you, egg banks, sperm banks.
yeah. Oh gosh. Oh,
Everything that they can get.
anyhow.
There's hair banks. I mean, people buy each other's hair. I don't even think about what's going on with that. So, but yeah. So so there's a lot of stuff in there and a lot of truth and things that come upon us.
Yeah, look it up, Truth Reigns Blake. Look it up. There are poop banks.
Is that who?
Truth Reigns Blake. And I made the mistake of telling my mother there was a poop bank. She was like, of course there is.
I think that's Sister Irina.
Oh, Sister Irina. She's like, of course there are. For people who have messed up stomachs, they actually what they do is take poop pills. They make a poop into a capsule and they have the person ingest it. They take it in their mouth, or they'll have a poop smoothie where you drink the poop. So yeah, just fun facts for tonight.
Okay, I didn't know all that. All right. I wasn't prepared. I wasn't ready. Feel like Kevin Hart. I wasn't
just guard
ready.
your bodily fluids.
Yeah. So yeah, don't donate your organs. Yeah, because then if you're on the edge, you represent money. You represent millions. Like literally, you represent millions. So but see, all those things is the same thing. See the way they would rip your heritage from you and do all those things. They do it in different ways now, but it's the same thing, and they do it to us more than they do everything that's there. Yeah, they look at the royalty, they look at the melanin, they look at the actions, they look at.
I'm sorry, Big Roy. So you won't be eating tonight. I'm sorry. I'm not that sensitive. I gotta be more sensitive to normal. What's normal? I'm not around too many people. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So
forgive me.
So it's important that we know that they're taking this stuff, they're hiding this stuff, they're taking it from us, and they're messing with things and continue to. And so when we bring this stuff up, we're not just bringing it up randomly. We're not just saying like, oh, this is something. Like, no, we have evidence. We know who we are. Even without a DNA test. I'm not saying that's your choice, but I'm just saying even without one, there's enough evidence to be able to point to who we are. And we keep saying we can't identify with this, we can't identify with that, we can't identify with this. Well, yeah, you can. If the evidence is there, if we know that there's the church in Savannah, Georgia, I bring that up all the time because it's something that's evidence, like where they wrote Hebrew on the pews. We have the evidence. The Gullah people were the same as the people of Gola or Angola in Africa, literally talking about the people who are displaced or dispersed.
Joe, these are copper cups. We sell them. If you want one, get in touch with Kofi. As I interrupt the Gullah discussion. Sorry. But yeah, the evidence is there, and I think we all have been told by a grandmother or relative or grandfather, someone, who you are. I remember being told as a child by my mother that I was, of the chosen people, that I was a Hebrew. And actually, when I was born in Florida, they had on the birth certificate, there was like a survey that you could check your race, and Hebrew was one of the options. And she knew that, we were Hebrew, but she was like, who wants to know? Like, so, we avoided answering those type of questions. And, at some point, my grandmother told me that she was Creek and Blackfoot Indian, but that it wasn't something that needed to be broadcasted. It's kind of like we kept this type of information to ourselves because it just wasn't safe to share it with anyone. And people will laugh at you and they'll say, "Oh, you're not Native. You're not this. You're not that. You're not Hebrew. What? Who has more interest in your oppression, your grandmother or some random on the internet?"
Mm-hmm. And really, well, that's the wild part, is that think about how powerful we must be if some random person on the internet. We call them trolls, I guess now. There was some random person who doesn't know you has to speak up to tell you that you can't be who you say you are. Like that's the power that we carry. That's the distinction. That's the crown. Like that's. I used to think that was wild, but now it's mandatory. Like if I'm a king, that's it's almost like the trumpet sound. I just wait for it, like somebody's ready to tell you that you're not great enough, you're not this, you're not, I don't like how you speak, I don't like your hairstyle, make sure you get a 9 to 5 job, why don't you pay this like everybody else does, why do you, and the reality is because I'm free, and I'm not all the way free, I'm getting there, but I'm free, in definitely in comparison to where I was, to be able to say I don't have to bow down to the system, I don't have to participate anymore, I don't have to be afraid of saying, like, with all sincerity, yeah, like I'm this, and when I know who I am, you will address me as such, or you just won't be listened to. And we come from a place, once again, the Nicolaitan doctrine, we're supposed to be conquered, but that's what like all this stuff that comes out, and we keep seeing this stuff, the yoke will be upon your neck and you being chains around your hands and your feet and all this, but it tells us we're more than conquerors, these conquistadors, this conquering spirit. You're supposed to be more than that, and so they can't conquer us, and it shows that the system is crumbling apart. It shows that things are not going to be the way they used to be. It shows that Rome doesn't have any power over us anymore. Yeah, give Caesar's things to Caesar, but Elohim's things come first, and they get to come first because we are the children of Deuteronomy 28, verse 15 through 68, but we've decided to become the children as well of Deuteronomy 28, 1 through 14. And that part messes people up because the blessings, just like it says the curses can come and overtake thee, it also says the blessings can come and overtake thee. Somebody got upset with me. I made a video today. Somebody got upset, frustrated because they were like, stop talking about the curses. And so I said, look, to talk about the curses, to talk about the problem, but we're problem solvers. So I can't become a problem solver and not identify the problem. So if my people keep having the same problem, and we're hitting our head against a brick wall, it doesn't make sense to keep, giving ourselves a concussion and not even having enough sense to go to the hospital.
Right.
Like if I've had a contusion, I should probably get it
Well,
seen.
well, where there's no problem, there's no solution. When you write a business plan, you have to identify your niche because you have to identify a problem that you can
Yeah.
solve, a service that you can provide. If there's no problem, there's no need for you. There's no need for the discussion to even take place. And that's why people try to hush us up and tell us there is no problem. Racism doesn't exist. You're imagining this. You're living in the past. Why are you making it worse than it was? And it just kind of downplaying the trauma, the hurt, the problem. They're trying to downplay the issue because if there's no issue, there's no need for a solution.
Yeah. And remember that we talked about, I can't remember what day this was, but even this was somewhat recently, where we talked about, matter of fact, I might still have it on here, the quote. I can't remember the guy's name, Russian name, I believe, but he said that basically when when the truth is replaced by silence, he said when the truth is replaced by silence, then the silence is a lie. And that's really what goes on, is everybody says, don't talk about it, don't do this. But when the truth is replaced by silence, the silence is a lie. And that's your Guinea, or is it your Guinea or your Jenny? I forget all the time how to pronounce it. But your Guinea, Yevtushenko. And when the truth is replaced by silence, the silence is a lie.
You're lying by omission. Like people love to do that. Like, oh, they just didn't mention. They casually just didn't mention who you were. Like they knew who you were, but they just didn't think that was important.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, like you said, somebody would start to tell you who you were, and then they just were like, oh, okay, I guess it must not be important,
Or I might have overstepped my bounds. Like it's a, like Malcolm X said, you're in a very bad position if you're going to your oppressor for help. Like why it's not their responsibility to inform, like what world, like some stuff that we do, other people, just doesn't make any sense. Like the whole, like, trying to explain things to people who made it up. Like, oh, we're trying to explain that this stuff exists, we're trying to explain that we're being oppressed, we're trying to explain all the time. It's like, at some point you just need to stop explaining and you need to just get to work, like, because the
Mhm.
whole like explaining to someone.
Well, and that's why we had to stop going to our oppressor for help. Like it's about time that we realize, like, you vote for your oppressor, and then you say, why am I oppressed? You work for your oppressor, and you say, why am I oppressed? You pay taxes to your oppressor, you say, why am I oppressed? You send your children to school to be taught by your oppressor, and you say, why are they oppressed? Like, after a while, you get to a place where it's like, okay, look, if working for the oppressor, and you would think this would be common sense, but we're doing the same thing. If working for the oppressor, if being taught by the oppressor, if giving money to the oppressor, heck, the whole Jesus Christ thing, if worshiping the oppressor is not working, just, you would think at some point somebody would be like, hey, maybe we should handle our oppression, or for ourselves. And I said this earlier to the guy too, like, if we're and this is what got the guy, which made it weird that he's made the statement. I said in the video that he responded to, I said, look, the people, you can blame everybody, do this, but at the end of the day, look, I agree with people that, yes, there are people from certain social constructs that cause this, that, third, but I also believe that when it comes to the oppressor, or whatever it comes to the curse, rather, like, I can't depend on somebody who doesn't carry the curse to break it. Like, they don't have to carry it, even if they helped to make sure, because really at the end of the day, we don't look at it correctly. If we're going to talk about the generational curses were not brought on by your oppressor, they were brought on by us. And they weren't, and they're not being, and your way out of it is not through the oppressor, your way out of it is through the Most High.
Shalom, Breezy. You're funny, Elion. I can't escape work even on live. You are the work. I appreciate mindfulness to carry out your ministry. Thank you. Ta-da.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremiah, I keep working for the oppressor every day, living in fear and worry, and letting them just do whatever with my body, destroying it.
Yeah, so the goal is to learn about yourself. Like, the evidence is out there. We know who we are. We know that blessings can come and overtake us. We know in Revelation 12 we're supposed to start separating so that we can make sure that we're not in this, what they call, civilization or world. We could be in it but not of it. And there's coming a time we can see all this stuff. They're getting rid of, as much as they told you not to get into, cryptocurrency, they made their own cryptocurrency. 2023, that's this year. Federal Reserve has already told the banks, and the banks have already had to hop to it and agree with the master that this stuff is coming. Like, it's coming, and we're just not in a position to where we believe. And my prayer is that not we just know these things, but now it's time to work it. We have faith that we can make it out, but where's the works? Remember, Yahshua is not coming back, according to Matthew chapter 24, verse 14, until we give this interpretation, which means also we got to live this interpretation. But we give this interpretation throughout the world. Those who are the remnant scattered, we got to give it to them, and so they can have an opportunity to come out, because all these things that we've been looking for, they're coming. All these things are looking for. Well, we prepare by what we're doing right now. We prepare by making sure that we start looking at land like we're doing. That's why we're trying to get these fundraisers and things moving as well, and trying to even look at some things that hopefully will yield some fruit. Where we got to look at making sure that we come out of this system as far as, even, hey, we're doing stuff as far as the holy day stuff. We're doing stuff as far as trying to meet together more. By the way, keep looking out for those messages from people that are in your area, because we're being a lot more diligent and giving all the tools out so that everybody can look. So there's a lot of different ways, but even just the physical coming together, things like that, and making sure that we're private, not public.
Oh, I don't know if this may be out of context, but the verse, "My people perish for a lack of knowledge."
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think what you're saying, like, definitely goes with knowing how to clothe yourself, knowing how to feed yourself, knowing how to first of all, knowing who you are. Like, if you don't know who you are, then it's kind of like a moot point. Like, why are you doing this in the first place? Why don't you just be swept up with the system? Because some a drastic change is coming.
Mm-hmm.
Is the world as we know it is going to change drastically, and so there's a lot of people who are out here prepping,
Yeah.
acquiring land, learning how to plant.
Well, it's even the oppressor a lot of times. Like, we were
Mm-hmm.
watching something today. I actually was trying to watch something on my son's iPad, because I thought it'd be something interesting for him to watch. And it was a guy that was supposedly made his own toilet paper. And then, of course, the video showed almost everything except his own toilet paper. But, he basically like was using like these, I forget what kind of plant he settled on at the
It was
end.
some type of blue flower. I have to think of it.
And he used the
But I
leaves or
was,
whatever that were really
yeah,
big.
there are a lot of leaves that you can use, and I was thinking, mullen leaves are big and soft and
Right.
fluffy.
And then my son, of course, because we don't think about it that way, he goes, oh, like, why would that doesn't make any sense. And I said, actually, son, because he doesn't think about it. And I was like, that toilet paper or paper in general is just trees or, stuff just basically destroyed and put together. So it's like, why wouldn't you use a tree? If that's what you're using anyways, like, obviously, hopefully, you know what plants to use, because you don't want to use certain plants on your body. But, some of those things that are there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot. You said lamb's ears, aren't you? Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's the same, as we don't think about it, but literally everything that these people are providing us, we could provide for ourselves. All these businesses we sell into, we say this all the time. We have our own businesses. We have a black book on the website, even something like that. Just like, hey, go on there, find out where these people are. And even if you don't know how to get in touch with them through there or whatever, like, reach out to us. We can try and reach out to somebody, say, hey, somebody's interested in your business. And we're giving business to all these other people. There's people who make clothing, there's people who make the tassels, there's people who make the fringes. We do actually some of that stuff. We're working on the fringes and even some of the stuff that we could wear to be more uniform. But some of these things, like we sew into ourselves. When you sew into yourselves, and then you can become community.
Alien, aloe would be good, to soothe like after the fact, but the leaves themselves are kind of rough, like, so the gel from the aloe would be nice, you could put it on something else to cleanse yourself with, but I wouldn't suggest, using the straight up aloe leaf. Miss you too, Breezy. Vertical integration. What could you please elaborate on that? Yasoma. Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah. So just doing those. I don't really have much more to add, in all honesty, but just doing more of that. And it starts with a mindset change, because if your mind is there, if it's on, like, I hate to be corny, but like the baseball movie, if you build it, they will come. Like, it starts in the mind. There's a vision, there's a voice that we're hearing. Like, build it, come together, come out of her, do this, do that, become better, become greater, love on one another, do all these things, right? So these are the things that we're trying to do, and we're trying to make sure that we're part of. And so we want to make sure that we're involved in those things, involved in those items, and that we're taking care of all these things properly. So um, but that's really all that I have. And I thank you guys. Well, I don't know. I don't, if unless you have something else, I don't really have anything much to add.
Mm-mm.
All right. Well, thank you guys. We appreciate you. We honor you guys. So we'll be back on together next Thursday. We'll also be doing this on Saturdays for the podcast. So we look forward to that happening, and you guys being with us for that. I guess I'll see you guys tomorrow on The Rising. Thanks again to the Honorable Maya for being on with us. Please go and check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A&D. The letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She's a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. For those who need the extra oomph on there. And hopefully you learned a little something or feel a little better about knowing who you are. And let's keep working and striving in 2023, which is our year to look beyond what we see. And let's continue to press and strain. Thank you guys again. Appreciate you. As always, it's been Pastor Kofi and Elder Maya. We are over servants of Christ, but we are always changing lives one mind at a time, but being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken, until we have the great privilege, opportunity, and responsibility of being in front of you all again. Please remember, as always, Yashta, that you are loved, you are necessary, you are majestic, you're fearfully, wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. All right, shalom, family. Barak Allah, Cham Yahava, Guam Yashta, Tada, Bavakasha.